So this is probably the first morning since I started filming, which was 31st of January, when it's not overcast. So we might get a little bit of sunrise actually, which is awesome. And I'm walking really quickly now because I am trying to catch up with Drake, because we actually met the gamekeeper on his way out from what I assume was the feeding ground, because I only saw him driving out of the corner here, and I'm almost certain he was there. Yeah, and Drake is like running like crazy, so I'm pretty sure it was restocked with some new goodies. So let's go and see what they got in store. Draco, check. And you know, like, I'm trying to manage Drake a little bit, because you know he loves munching on stuff that is outside, and there are some bones that I'm pretty damn sure he would eat them, or at least one or two before I could come in. And you know, nog nee. Ja, je moet ze praten mee. We're just gonna take a look at what's in there. Ah. Okay. Oh, so there are some bones here. Yeah. There's like some vertebrae here. It's like part of a spine. And he put some grain. Like, that's new. Just pure grain. Well, finally something reasonable. Interesting though, because it's just grain. It's just like, I'm not sure if you can, hold on, let me see. It's just like lines of grain. Not much of it, to be honest. And he drove all that way to do that here. It's kind of suspicious. I don't know. You know what I think? I think he prepared it later. Maybe he's gonna be here in the night. Either that's the better part, monitoring the animals, or he's gonna come with his gun and he'll shoot some. He'll shoot some of them, you know. Yeah, either some boars or some deers. So that's what I think, because it looks like a bait. Doesn't look like, you know, hey, here, have a feast, you know, because it's just a bit of grain, you know, and he came all that way to do that, you know. Weird. I mean, I put that much grain in my feeder, you know, not grain, but like sunflower seeds. I didn't put it that much in a day, you know. So it doesn't make really much of a sense. Anyways, we crossed ways, you know, he was driving the car and we waved at each other, which is funny, you know. I mean, it's not like a friendly wave, like, hey bro, how's it going, man? What's up with, you know, your wife and kids, and if you have any, or, you know, not that kind of wave, but more like a, you know, more like a polite sort of nod, but instead of nod, you know, since, you know, you're moving opposite directions, you kind of raise your hand up to kind of let the person know that you're acknowledging them and kind of, you know, way, like kind of greeting them in a way, you know, or saying hi. Yeah. I think we saw each other a couple of times. I'm not sure which one of them it's like which one of those gamekeepers is this guy. But you know, that's kind of a thing around here, that we greet each other. Like everyone here is greeting each other, you know. Doesn't matter who it is, if it's a farmer, if it's someone in a tractor, if it's your neighbor, like really next door, or whoever it is. We're just, look at that. Yep. We're really getting some sun. Nice. So 13 days after I started filming, 13th day, we're having a sunrise. Nice. That's awesome. So yeah, so now, no matter who it is around here, we just greet each other, you know. And I really like it. It really feels nice, you know. It feels good. Back when I lived in the city, that is, I mean, obviously completely unheard of, you know. And I mean, I'm pretty sure you're very well familiar with that. It's like, you know, like no one even looks to each other's eyes, let alone like greet each other. That's like absolutely no, absolutely not happening, you know, in a city. Yeah, but here it's, you know, it's kind of a, I don't know, unwritten rule sort of, you know. And I even when I sit in my what do you call it, like office room, it's not office room, I got a computer in there and I'm working there, you know, and the window is facing the road, and whenever there is you know, someone passing, I just wave and they wave back, you know, and it feels nice, you know. It's cool, especially like with this one neighbor. He walks his dogs pretty much every day, you know, and every single time we wave at each other. It's cute. So yeah, and it's been going on for like, I don't know, well, since I'm here, like 3 years. Every single day we wave at each other, you know. Yeah, so that's cool. Anyways, look at that. Look at that. Nice, man. A full-blown sunrise. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Damn, that is great. That feels so good. And there is a blue sky. And yeah, you know, it's really warm again. You know, I've seen some earthworms crawling out of the ground and actually being on the road. And yeah, and unfortunately I saw like 2 frogs, just like what I was talking about in one of the previous videos. 2 frogs that were ran over and were completely flat on the road. So this, you know, I mean, it feels good that it's not freezing, you know, for sure. And I'm glad there is no wind, but man, it should be at least 10 degrees colder, you know. I think it's like 7 at this point. It's probably going to be around 10 or 12 throughout the day. And that in barely the middle of February is way too high, you know. And you can hear, when you listen, there's a lot of activity, right? Like the birds are pumped up. They see it's warm, there's sun coming up. But I feel like it's a trap, you know, because it's definitely gonna get colder, and sometimes the winter kind of doubles down, you know. It comes back even stronger, and that is like I would say even dangerous for a lot of animals and loads of plants that, you know, like send out buds and new shoots, and some even start to flower in this kind of warm weather. And then there is a frost that comes in there is brutally harsh, and everything gets frozen, you know. Everything is gonna get bitten by frost, you know, and those flowers are gonna fall off. And hell, sometimes even happens that, for instance, like blackbirds, they are, you know, the blackbirds, Turdus merulae, we talked about this guy in a previous video, and maybe you're gonna either see or hear him around, hear it around here, but it's not as common species here because, like I was talking about in the previous video, it actually slightly withdrew from its original habitat, which is forest, and sort of moved closer to the cities and inside the cities, you know, where it find the habitat to just be more safe, I suppose, suitable, you know, and it adapted to live there, and And so you'll find these days blackbird mostly in the cities, you know, just like magpies, you know. Magpie is a bird that I saw, well, pretty much every day in the city. And here, when I see magpie, I'm like, hey, wow, look at that, there's a magpie, you know. It's like a, I wouldn't say rare bird, but it's kind of uncommon here, you know. It's the same thing. They figured out, wow, cities provide, you know, yeah, easy access to food, shelter, safety, you know. There are people that can be robbed of their, you know, food and so on and so forth. So they moved in there, and they're thriving, you know. They're extremely intelligent, you know. So something similar happened with blackbird, and that species, since it's living in the cities, you know, obviously not the whole population, but if you have a population that lives in the cities, then they can get really confused by this weather, because as I talked in the previous video, wow, let me stop just for a moment. Ah, this is beautiful. Ah, hear the rooster crowing. Nice. That's a proper village life for you. Rooster crowing on sunrise. I'm sure he was crowing like 2 hours ago, but you know. Yeah, I love it, man. I love these sounds. By the way, yeah, we're hearing a lot of voices because a lot of songs and a lot of calls. We're actually hearing a call I haven't heard in a long time. Not sure if we can. This one. Let's wait a little bit more. Wow, there's another one coming from over there. It's starting, man. It's crazy. It feels like spring. But the voice we've heard there was now we heard it again. That is a call of, and damn, how is he called in English? I remember the Czech name, but is it a treecreeper? Yeah, it's a treecreeper. And there are two different species which are visually almost identical, but they're actually different species living in different habitats. Now it sang again. That live in a different habitats and that have completely different songs, you know, and calls. And this is one of them, but oh yeah, I remember. Yeah. One is called short-toed treecreeper, and the other one, I mean, that would be kind of weird if it would be called long-toed, but the other one is, in our language, it's actually short-toed and long-toed, but I'm not sure if it's the same for English. Anyways, this one is one of them, and to be completely honest with you, I'm not gonna play smart here. I forgot the differences between the two, you know. So I really got really rusty with my ornithology skills. So I'm gonna have to check the song. But in my opinion, you know, like if I dig in my memory, this song is longer. You know, that's how I remembered many of the songs, many of the calls. Is that I always had this little bit of a sort of a cheat sheet and sort of like things to remember the songs by, you know. And I remember that these two birds, that the short-toed one actually had a shorter song, and the long-toed one had a long song, you know, and that was helping me to remember, you know, these two and distinguish them. So this song, let me just, you know, go through here and let's have a listen to another song in the meantime. But I think that song we've heard was actually long. So in my opinion, that's the, it's probably not called that way in English, but it's the long-toed one, tree creeper. But let's check once I get back and, you know, again, write into the subtitles what it really was, you know. But yeah, I am saying long-toed tree creeper. Yes. So that was interesting because it's a species I don't really often hear and see here. And the other bird I stopped here by that we've heard, it was a long, very loud call and song, was oh man, see. Sometimes like it's called and I dig in my memories, and again I can recall the Czech name, but it is, oh, wren. Yeah, it's a wren. I suppose Eurasian, because there's a lot of species of wrens. So this is the Eurasian wren. You know, again, you know, subtitles. Check the subtitles too, you know, fact check for fact checking. So Eurasian wren, and it's one of the smallest of birds. You know, we're definitely going to talk about this one later on in some of the other videos, because these species, the tree creeper and the wren, and like all of them deserve their separate, you know, their separate walks, so to speak, their separate videos. So let's talk about these sometime later on. But it's interesting, we've heard it, and I'm just gonna write down the specific time when it's actually sang, so you can, you know, check it back, and you can hear how it sang. But yeah, that was an Eurasian wren, and it's one of the tiniest birds with one of the loudest songs that you will hear anywhere, really. Yeah, when you were on a walk in the forest, it's one of the tiniest birds, but one of the loudest ones, really. So that's just a little interesting fact. And I was talking about the blackbird, yeah, and the reason why they get very confused is that the populations living in the cities actually are subjected to unnatural artificial light, you know, because there's a light pollution obviously in the city with a lot of street lights, you know. There is just a lot of light in general the whole time, you know. So when it goes to the evening and throughout the night, you always have some type of light in there, and they of course are sensitive to that, and they get like their hormones and their inner clock gets sort of misaligned, or how to put it, you know. And coupled with warm temperatures like this, it can feel like the intensity of daylight increased as well as the temperature, and they're like, oh my god, it's already end of March, you know, whereas in fact it's just the beginning of February, you know, in this case. And they can get confused, and they can actually start building a nest, they can mate, they can even sit on eggs and manage to carry out the offspring, and then insane frost hits and they die, you know. So it can be really taxing for some of the species, especially some populations living very close or in the cities, for that very reason. Because yes, they are also sensitive to the intensity of daylight, but if you count and if you put into the equation the amount of light pollution and the amount of artificial lighting in the cities, you get a mixture that ends up and results in early nesting, you know, way too early, you know. So it can be quite dangerous in that regard. And of course, I mean, they'll have an unsuccessful nesting, which is a shame. Their chicks will die, but as soon as they can, they'll start again, you know, and maybe they'll manage 2 or 3 more nestings. But you know, it's taxing, and and those poor chicks, you know, are never gonna see the light of day, you know, when they freeze to death. Yeah, it's really unhealthy to have this warm and unhealthy. I might say unnatural, but I mean, you know, we are nature. This is nature, so it cannot be unnatural, but it's abnormal for sure. And the species and evolution, you know, that led to this moment made simply some of the species unprepared for that, I feel like, you know. And some of the species really suffer from this climate change thing, and from, you know, from the weather becoming much warmer, and I'm sure, I mean, you know, you've seen it, you know, glaciers melting and all that. So yeah, but I mean, you know, we are nature, and everything's part of nature, so I mean, it's hard to call it unnatural, but it is abnormal for sure, and it's unusual very much. But that's what's happening, really. Hopefully it's gonna get colder soon, so yeah, so everything is gonna get back to more wintry normal, you know. Anyways, I'm gonna sign off now.